What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music. In today's episode, I am joined by Colin Harden of the studio project Valor, and this is a great episode, man. You're going to learn some really cool things about Colin. He's 17 years old. He's in college. He's written, produced, and recorded an amazing song called Wake, and you should be able to check that out on most streaming platforms. He's on Spotify right now. He's on YouTube. He was just telling me personally about how YouTube actually has more plays than it does on Spotify. So check that out, man, whichever way you choose to listen to that song. But he has a great story to tell. He's going to tell you the multiple layers about what Wake is about, man. As well as he tells you about some of his own personal issues he's dealing with, man. And we get pretty in depth on some things, man. And I think this is really cool perspective. Him being, a young man starting out in music and, basically doing it on his own terms. So sit back and listen to this episode. I'm not going to do jams of the week, man, because this is such a great episode. I really feel like this, needs to get started right away. So sit back, guys, relax, listen, and enjoy, and go check out Valor's single Wake. What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music and how it affects my life. And today I am joined by Colin Harden of the group Valor, and more of a studio project is what we're calling it right now, right, Colin?
Yes, that is correct. More of a studio project.
Okay. So, Colin, how I like to start my show is I hit you with my corny question. Top 5 artists or top 5 records. You can choose to answer individually, or you can answer both of them if you'd like.
Top 5 records is going to take me forever of thinking, so let's just steer clear of that one.
All right, let's do 5 artists then. All
right. Number 5, I've been listening to a lot of Gojira recently. The Gift of Gil, Flying Whales, just, the classics. This is difficult. Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to go with a number 4, it would probably be Fit for a King.
Wow, yeah, no, a lot of people have actually been digging that new, I don't know if you've heard their new record. Fit for a King is definitely hitting pretty hard.
The Price of Agony?
Yeah. That's a solid record.
Yeah, I haven't listened to a lot of it, but what I have heard of it is very, very good.
All right, hit me with your number 3, boss.
Number 3. Damn. This is so difficult.
It's a corny question, but it's a serious question.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Probably Muse.
Okay.
Yeah. Muse, because coming from a classical background, having that symphonic element and classical element in the music is very, very neat. And also their bass lines are just kick-ass. So.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Number 2 for me. You still got 2 more, man.
Yeah. Luckily, I think I've got these 2 down pat. Avenged Sevenfold for my number 2.
Really?
And I know a lot of elitists hate that.
Yeah.
But, they are very musical. You can see in their music, you can hear it anyway, how Sinister Gates implements his gypsy jazz training into his solos.
Okay.
And it's very cool to listen to. And plus, every single record they've made has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Exactly. Hey, it's your top 5. It's what you like, not what anybody else likes. So hit me with your number 1, man. Number
1, not metal at all. Jack White.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Jack White is extremely experimental, and it's kind of cool that he has so many influences from blues to jazz. He definitely is a multi-talented artist for sure.
Yeah, Jack White personally is he purposely played on a piece of shit guitar because he had to really work to get a sound out, and that gave the sound character. And also his tone is just an orgasmic mess of fuzz, and I love it.
All right. Yeah, I think it's the first time we've had that word on my show. Eargasmic. Hell yeah, nothing wrong with that. So, Colin, the purpose of my podcast is to talk about the journey. And today we're here to talk about your journey. So tell me, where did your love for music begin? Were you young? Was it something your mother played for you? Was it something you heard and you're just like, man, I got to figure that out? How did it start for you, Colin?
So I had always listened to music, and whenever there was a piano available, my grandmother had a keyboard downstairs, acoustic pianos. As a kid, I would just grow up and bang on it because I thought it sounded neat. And for my 7th birthday, my grandmother actually started me with piano lessons, and that grew into what you see today. And when I first started learning piano, up until I was, I think, 11 or 12, I only listened to classical music.
Wow.
Only. I didn't listen to anything else.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic because a lot of people, it starts different for everybody. I think, I didn't grow up listening to metal. I kind of got into it when I was like a teenager. So a lot of people don't realize that, some of the early stuff that you're into isn't, what you end up being known for or what you end up getting into. So that's kind of a cool aspect from you.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of classical influence. For example, classical pieces often use something called C harmonic minor, which is just minor except with a major 7, and it gives it a very tense feeling when you go to the resolution chord. And you hear that all the time in metal, along with diminished scales, which are also very common in classical music.
I think that's a cool aspect that you're bringing to it. That's something you have to remember about things. You have to be influenced from different sounds on what exactly you're playing, because not all the time do normal, if you will call metal rules, if you will, apply, and you can be diverse, you can be different when you're adding different backgrounds to what you like. So besides you doing music, when I first met you, you were doing some community theater and some acting. Do you feel like some of that music from plays and stuff like that, like I'm a huge fan of Rent, which, I mean, a lot of people are a huge fan of Rent, but I don't think they realize how much vocally the musical Rent actually inspired a lot of my singing, because there's so many harmonies that are actually in that play, and they use a lot of different harmonies. So do you feel like, some of that stuff kind of influences what you do vocally?
I think definitely, because my most prominent memory of being in a musical was a musical made after the movie School of Rock, and it was made by Andrew Lloyd Webber, the same guy who did Phantom of the Opera, my second favorite musical. And during that, I actually got sick the first day. And so instead of, just letting the phlegm screw with my voice, I took a completely different approach and used it to make it so that my vocal cords didn't entirely phonate, and I got grit as a result. And, I figured, hey, it's rock oriented, so I'll just implement that. And lo and behold, I ended up making a vocal sound that everyone was pleased with, and doing a full front split on the very last show. That was
whoa! I was about to say, that sounds painful. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that's once again, it's another influence from a different aspect, but still musical, that can influence you, whether it pertains to metal, rock, hip hop, whatever you do. I think that's cool. You're not coming from an area of, well, I just listened to this stuff and then I came up with this stuff. You're giving yourself the ability, even at a very young age, which, you're like 18, 19, right? So
17.
Oh my God, 17. So you're even younger than that, and you're bringing so much talent. So, before we talk about the single, your debut single, Wake, Available on streaming sites right now. You can find it on Spotify. I found it on Spotify. I want to talk to you about the album art. It's a very powerful album art, and as I understand, your mother had a little help with it. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? Tell me where the influence came. I do know that it has. We talked a little bit before. It has some. It pertains a little to the song itself. So who came up with basically my question is, who came up with the idea and who helped you execute it, and whose arm is that?
I came up with it.
Okay.
I figured, on the surface, as we'll talk about in a little bit, it's a song about addiction. And I wanted something that obviously portrayed the dangers of that. And I'm like, this is done in our house, by the way.
Yeah.
This is done in our hallway, underneath a little heater vent that by itself looks like it's in a complete shithole.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm not even gonna lie, we didn't sweep or anything, just made it look like a shithole. And the way I write my music is very personal, and it comes from the soul, shit that moves you.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of the notebook with the drawing of the symbol is supposed to signify, because the symbol is me. And I actually had to go in and write out what that meant to me.
Yeah, wow.
And that's kind of what that means. And, it's supposed to look like an overdose. We took it on my iPad, and I just went into Windows Editor, and there's a feature called sharpness, and I just turned this shit all the way up 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times, and I got an amazing look, and it was great.
That's
my arm, by the way.
Huh? That's your arm? Yeah, it's a strong image. And I know you guys, that's cool that your mom, it's a really strong image, but it's cool that your mom was just like, oh yeah, no, I'm down to help you out with that. Cause I'm believing she believes in the artistry that you are bringing in, creativity, which is something is very, very hard to do. Cause I remember as a kid growing up, my mom, it wasn't that she wasn't supportive. It just, there were things for her that were more important than me performing music or writing music or whatever. But your mom, she understands your creativity. She understands who you are, being 17 and in college, which blows my mind. She understands who you are, and that's cool. She was able to give you a hand in creating that image, and then you were able to do what you wanted to do. And that's cool. So my next question is I understand that you wrote, recorded, and produced this track all by yourself, man. Talk about, is this your first single that you've done yourself? And then talk about maybe some of your frustration with it, or maybe some of the things you felt like you did well, or, just talk about your experience in doing this by yourself.
So, yeah, it was very interesting. I ended up having a break from school for a little bit. Bless you.
Oh, thanks.
and I ended up having a break for about 10 days. Well, it was a little more than 10 days, but 10 days was how long I worked on the song. And 9 out of those 10 days, I was there for upwards of 12, 14 hours a day, every day.
Wow.
So the studio is walking distance from my house, and I actually work there, so I have a spare key.
Okay.
And the studio was closed because of the holidays. And aside from Christmas, which I only worked half a day on to come home and, spend time with my family, as you do, every other day was spent up there at the studio just working. And I tracked guitars, bass, drums, vocals.
Okay.
And most people will record drums first, but the reason I did guitars was because I wasn't sure on what the drum part was going